Hi, sisters. One of the things we really ran into last week was that a lot of you do not know how to get started on research. So I am creating this Ed puzzle. One, so then it's providing you with a resource to refer back to. So if you need to rewatch it to remind yourself how to go through the steps of research, you have that as an option. And two, so then I can make sure that you really understand this process. So first of all, for the purposes of this project, you are more than welcome to either use resources found on Google or resources found on YouTube. However, you need to make sure that no matter where you're getting the information, that it is considered a reliable resource. So, as I am going through this video, I'm going to provide you with some background on how to look for not only a resource, but a reliable resource. So, to begin with, I'm going to open up Google. So, one of the resources that you are going to use for your project is Google Maps. As you have learned, the easiest way to find Google Maps is literally just Googling it. Okay, it's going to pop up right away. You're going to open up Google Maps. You have done this before. You understand how Google Maps works. Okay. So then what you're going to do in the upper left corner where you search for your location, you are going to search for the location based off of whatever location you are doing your project based off of. So if you're doing New York City, then you're going to search for New York City. If you are doing Washington, D.C., you're searching for Washington, D.C. If you're doing Rome, then you're searching for Rome, whatever the city it's based off of. For the purposes of the examples that I'm providing for this project, I have used Ellis Island, which was an immigration port that immigrants stopped in on their way to the United States from Europe during the early 1900s. So when I am searching on Google Maps, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to search for Ellis Island, which is an island just outside of New York City. So when I search for that, again, I'm typing in the location in the upper left corner and I'm finding it. As I'm looking at the location, I'm going to zoom in and zoom out and find as much information as possible that is helpful for the purposes of my specific question. So, depending on your geographic information question, it could be helpful to look at things like the traffic patterns. It could be helpful to look at things like look at the terrain there. So look at the natural resources there, especially if you're doing something like related to national parks. That could be a helpful resource. Another thing you're going to want to pay careful attention to is looking at the location of other major landmarks which are labeled on here. So, for example, I can see here that it's next to Liberty State Park, that it's next to the Statue of Liberty. These are major locations that are in the general area. And as it turns out, they played a significant role in terms of the location of Ellis Island. One of the reasons that the Statue of Liberty is located on the way in was because that was very much a symbol of the American experience at the time. And so this would have been something that the immigrants went by. Another thing I'm going to pay careful attention to is the waterways. As you have learned, waterways on a map are typically labeled in blue. On Google Maps, they are in blue, but sometimes you need to zoom in or zoom out a little bit in order to find the label of the waterways. And this map is actually providing me with the divide between New Jersey and New York in terms of who owns the waterway. So I'm going to have to zoom out quite a bit in order to be able to see the label of that waterway. So, when you are using Google Maps, you're going to want to pay special attention to one, what is labeled from a distance, and two, what is labeled up close. So, there's a lot of different reasons that we use Google Maps as a resource, but especially when we're looking at things related to location, it's important to be able to see the relative location, which is the location in relationship to other places. After you use Google Maps, you have a couple of options. Option one is you can go to Google and look for informational sources written in text. Option two is you can go to YouTube and look for additional resources in the variation of videos. So I'm going to open up Google and I am just going to search my question straight up. So I am going to look on here and I am going to type in why was Ellis Island located on an island. In New York City. So when I am searching, most likely the first thing you're going to see pop up is Wikipedia. So for the purposes of this project, we are not using Wikipedia. Wikipedia has gotten a lot better over time in terms of looking into the sourcing and making sure that the information is accurate, but to some extent, people can still edit it. So I do not want you using Wikipedia at all for your research. I'm going to scroll down. I'm not paying attention to what other questions people ask because I'm focusing specifically on this question for this project. And I am looking for additional research. So over here, I have the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island Foundation. The first thing I'm noticing when I'm looking at this, that this is a .org. Typically, if you have a .org, a .edu, or a .gov, it tends to be fairly reliable. Looking at this, I know that this is coming from the Statue of Liberty website, so that could be a very useful website because it's most likely run by either a historical foundation or the US government. So if I click on this, then I can kind of scroll through and see what type of information it provides. If when I open this, I'm looking at the information and it has nothing to do with the question that I asked, then I have every right to say, no, I'm not using this resource. This is not what I'm looking for, so I'm not going to use it. Another thing I'm looking at when I'm scrolling through here is topics directly related to my topic. So the first section here is on Ellis Island, which is what my topic is related to. Scrolling down here, it goes on to talk about the sailing of the Land of Liberty, which is talking about immigrants entering through the New York harbor. So that's still related to my location as to where it's at. As I scroll on, it's talking about a fire on Ellis Island. Well, that has nothing to do with my topic in reference to the location. So if I don't want to, I don't even necessarily have to read that session because I know that's not on the topic related directly to my question. While you need to read through the resources more than just looking at the information that automatically pops up underneath it on Google, you do not necessarily need to read the entire resource in order to get the information you need. If you were to look at a book and it had one chapter on the topic that you were researching, but the other chapters were on different things. So, for example, if you were researching Abraham Lincoln and the book had inserts on all the presidents, you wouldn't read the other chapters. You just read the chapter based on Abraham Lincoln. So even if these resources are popping up and they're super duper long, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to read the whole thing. Britannica, scrolling through, is a helpful resource. It's a encyclopedia. For those of you that tend to like to navigate towards Wikipedia, Britannica is kind of similar in structure, however, it's more reliable. If your topic has anything related to the National Park Services, this is provided by the US government, hence the .gov. They have some helpful resources on there too. Library of Congress is great. So as I'm scrolling through these, I'm paying special attention to where the information's coming from. As I'm selecting resources, I'm not just looking at this, but I'm actually clicking on the resource to see more information on it to see if this is a resource I want to use. I'm skimming through it to see which sections I could use for my actual research. I'm deciding whether it relates to my question or if it's not going to work for the purposes that I'm using it for. Okay. So you need to make sure that one, you're able to find three resources on your topic, but two, the resources that you're finding are reliable. If it is something posted on like a question forum where people are asking a question and random people are answering it, that is not a reliable resource. If it is just popping up with Wikipedia, that is not a reliable resource. If it's popping up with resources that are reliable but don't refer to your question, then you either need to pick a different resource or pick a different question. So, the other area you can use is YouTube. So if I open up YouTube, the first thing I'm going to do at the top here is I am going to search my question. But typically speaking, if you phrase it as a question on YouTube, it's going to have a difficult time coming up with an answer. It's not like Google with those algorithms. So I am going to search on here location of Ellis Island and hope that it comes up with resources that is talking about the importance of the location of Ellis Island. As I'm coming through here, I have a video from the History Channel, so that's a fairly reliable resource. But then here, this is just from the Travel Chick. Well, while her information may be helpful, that is not going to be a reliable resource based off of the research that I'm doing. As I'm scrolling through here, before I even watch the videos, I'm paying attention to the title of the video to see if it's even related to what I'm asking it to be related to. And I'm paying careful attention to who the resource is from. So as I'm scrolling through here, I'm identifying, is this someone I can trust or is this just a random username like this one right here? So when you're doing history or geography based research, some helpful resources to use could be National Geographic, History Channel, the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian Museums. There are some common resources that absolutely, I would say without a doubt, those are going to be helpful to your research. Okay, there are some specific ones to specific topics. So, for example, if you have something related to a national park, that could be helpful. But you don't want to just use random usernames. You want to make sure it's something you can trust, just like if you're searching off Google, you need to make sure it's something that you can trust. When I am looking for the name of your resources, I am not looking for you to type in YouTube or Google. What I am looking for is I am looking for you to tell me where that information came from. So, for example, if I was using this article, I would say the Library of Congress. If I was using this video, then I would say the History Channel. I am not saying Google. I am not saying YouTube. Those are search engines. They are not talking about specific resources. This is a huge skill to learn. No matter what you choose to do in the future, this is definitely a skill that you will be using in a lot of classes, not just in middle school, but also in high school. So please make sure if you have questions, you are asking them now.